Did you hear that? What do you see happening in Trinidad? What are you seeing happening in Ecuador? What are you seeing happening in Jamaica? The
Let's talk about
same thing.
Trinidad. Let's talk about Trinidad a
Yes.
bit more. Let's talk about Trinidad.
Yes. Yeah. No, I was just trying to make the connection that whatever happens in America in terms of the fact that President Trump has really plunged the United States into a state of emergency where people don't even have any basic civil rights. You can just be scooped up at any given moment. So what they're doing now in the interest of national security, because that's what they say. In America, they tell us that it's what the immigrants are the ones who are creating the crime, and Trump is saying that he has to protect Americans against illegal immigrants, right? So that's
Yes.
why he has taken away their rights. In Trinidad, in Jamaica, they're telling us that it's the criminals, the drug
Yes.
traffickers and the arms traffickers, and that is why they have to impose states of emergency. So we're seeing the connection here, where in the Imperium, in the United States, they're having their state of emergency for a different reason. And they all say it's in the interest of national security. That is the underlying word. So when they tell us this, but what happens now when we look at the pandemic? When they tell us now that's in the interest of national security, what happens when they say, okay, if we see any dissident voice, if you are talking against the government, then we also might become criminals, can't we? Because right now, Trump is now, if you're, visiting the United States and you are not a citizen, they have the right to look at your social media. They're saying that if you say anything that is anti-government, anything anti-Trump, you can be deported immediately. Even if the statement that somebody made, not you, but you liked or you agreed with on social media, they can send you home. Because according to Marco Rubio, you are a criminal. Even to protest, look at what they were doing on the campuses of the United States the other day when the police were sent to squash their protest action against what Israel is doing in the Gaza area. So we are seeing that they're launching these national emergencies against us using this pretext of national security.
And I love what you're doing there, because what you're showing us is that this thing is happening globally.
Yes.
And I love that, what you're doing, Mr. Tucker. And I hope people are catching it. So we are focused on Trinidad.
Yes.
We are focused on Trinidad. And here it is. You are saying to us, but no. Open your eyes and look globally what is happening.
Yes.
It has started in the US already, folks. And no, but if we let's come to Trinidad. I mean, Trinidad is doing some real serious lockdowns at the moment.
Absolutely. And I call it soft. I'm happy to say that I think that the states of emergency, because we already have been adapted to lockdowns. We went through them for a year or two, right? So now they're I think they are now saying that we're accustomed to lockdowns. So when they have their curfews, to me, I call it in my program, soft lockdowns, because they're controlling your movement. They're taking away your rights. In fact, if you study the Bukele model, they can scoop you up, send you to prison indefinitely. Even children who are 12 years old, as young as 12 years old, can be imprisoned. Just by suspicion. You don't have to have any evidence, and then you don't have any right to go before the courts and defend yourself, just like what Trump is doing to so-called illegal immigrants. But Trump is not only doing to illegal immigrants, he's doing it also to Americans. I don't know if you guys were seeing in Jamaica that a Black American who had no links, no ties to Jamaica, was scooped up and sent there, deported to Jamaica.
Yeah,
from Trump's America. Go ahead.
So that's interesting that we're seeing that trend that is happening globally, but we want to bring it to the region, right?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Let's talk about Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
And if Dave looks in his WhatsApp, he will see that there is an article there, and I just want to read here a little bit of it. Trinidad and Tobago has declared its second state of emergency this year amid grave concerns about a coordinated threat from organized crimes inside and outside the country's prisons. And I want to hasten here to say that we're not saying that crime does not exist in Trinidad. At the start of this segment, we outlined to you the situation, what's really happening, and it's pretty grave. But what we're
Yes.
saying is that you've got to peer behind that and look to see who is behind that, who is the
Mhm,
fiddler, who is the
mhm,
puppeteer, who is
mhm,
who, you understand, who is
mhm,
doing the work behind all of this.
mhm,
However, they are working focusing on the blocks and the
mhm,
corners and the ghetto areas, right?
mhm,
So, announcing this decision on Friday, the Commissioner of Police, Alisto Guevara, said his force had received intelligence the day before that the gangs had formed themselves into an organized crime syndicate.
mhm,
And we intend on wreaking havoc and planning assassination. And they were intent. This organized crime syndicate wreaking havoc, planning assassinations, robberies, and kidnappings.
mhm,
He confirmed that the authorities had started relocating certain gang leaders from the prison system to another facility to manage the threat. There are persons who seem hell bent on facilitating the communication of these persons with the outside, he said. So, by removing them from this environment and placing them in one where they are much more secure, I can feel or rest assured that communication link is broken. He would not confirm whether any member of the protective services were involved in the syndicate. And this article, I was looking to see if it, okay, the terms of the current state of emergency mirror those of the ones announced in December 2024 and
mhm.
extended for 3 months into January. There is no curfew. There is no curfew in place, and citizens are free to move about. However, law enforcement officers now have enhanced powers, including the ability to enter premises without a warrant,
Mhm.
right? And it goes on and on and on. Now, is there anything else, Mr. Mr. Tucker, you would want to add in terms of, what is happening in Trinidad? Their emergency order. What?
Yeah,
Anything else?
and I'm trying to stress that it's not just what is happening in Trinidad. As what's his name, Dr. Andrew Holness, in his speech at CARICOM, he's saying that the Caribbean has to launch a war on the gangs, a global. He didn't say a Caribbean war on the gangs. He said a global war on the gangs, equivalent to the war on terror. Now, when we hear about the war on terror, what do we think? We know that George W. Bush was the one who launched that war on terror. So they are going to be using, this is not just a Caribbean national or Trinidadian national state of emergency. This is a Caribbean, a global, and that is why I was linking Trump's America to what is happening in Jamaica, to what is happening in Trinidad, to what is happening in El Salvador, and all of these other Latin American countries, to show you that we can't just look at this as an isolated case. This is a global trend that we have to understand.
Yeah.
And how do we fight? The question is, how do we fight back? Understanding that this is a global, and it's not just about Trinidadian gangs or Jamaican gangs or Barbadian gangs. It is that they're launching a global war on the gangs. And the question is, and in Haiti we see what is happening, who are the gangs? That is what I would like to ask. And if we don't identify who the gangs are, then we are going to be the gangs in the final analysis. And our rights will
Explain
be.
that. You said we need to know who are the gangs, and if
Yes.
we're not careful, the citizens, the ordinary citizens, become the gangs. Can you
Correct.
speak a
Okay,
little
when
bit
we look at the war, right, when we look at the war on terror, we understand that many of the people who were involved in 9/11, after so many years, were not the ones who were killed. They went to Iraq, they went to Afghanistan, they went to other countries, and they killed hundreds and thousands of innocent citizens, right? So while the terrorists, most of them remain alive or in hiding. So the fact of the matter is, we understand that so often when they are launching these wars, it is not it's not the what do you call it now, the culprits, the real gangsters that are caught. Let's look at Jamaica, for example. Jamaica has been having states of emergency since 2017. Can you imagine? And only last year, Andrew Holness declared that there is a serious dramatic reduction in crime. And I am suspicious about that because this year is election year. So that is why they might be reporting that there's a serious decline. But from 2017, and he was the same prime minister in office in 2017, until 2024, he could not use states of emergency because states of emergency are not crime-solving tools. They can't solve crime. They're just there to, bring a temporary dent into what is happening and to bring about some manner of social order. But they're using states of emergencies now, Marcia and my listening audience, as the crime strategy tool. So the government has lost its power. When you see government is using just states of emergency, they have lost control over the security of its people, of its citizens.
Quite interesting. I love what you said. Who are really the gangs?
Yes.
Who are the gangs?
But if you're going to launch a war, Marcia, you have to identify your enemies, don't you? If you don't identify who your enemies are, then you're going to kill you. You're going to lose the war. The war is going to be lost, and that is what I'm saying.
Because if you take, for example, I would like to bring it home, Andrew, so that everybody understands. Let's take Jamaica as an example.
Yes.
Right. And if what is being said here is exactly what is happening, which I happen to believe it is, that we have guns are being traded for marijuana, right? In Jamaica. So they're getting the heavy powered weapons and it's coming through Haiti. People don't realize how close Jamaica is to Haiti.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And a lot of that is happening there. If Prime Minister Holness decides to, he's creating this war on gangs in Jamaica.
And global. He said not only in Jamaica, but the Caribbean region, it's a global war on the gangs. I'm saying to you, it's global, which means that the entire Caribbean will be militarized, will be seen as a criminal network space.
Yes.
And they have to launch a war on these gangs.
But the big thing about it, if you don't cut off the source from America,
they can't. That's the whole point, because they know that they cannot touch Goliath because America is the Goliath. So because they've lost control, they have to pretend. So what they do, but before I even say that, there was a criminologist who said that, for example, in Jamaica, when they have a state of emergency in Clarendon or in Kingston, then the criminals move from Kingston and go to another area. And they go there and they kill other people in other parishes. So these states of emergencies are just not effective. They're just what you call it now, smoke screen, as this person was saying, and also just band-aid on the sore. That's what it is.
That's what you're really saying. So, listen, and I'm not, we literally, I'm waiting on my other young guests that are coming on after you've left. After you leave, after your segment is ended, but
yes.
Can we take at least another 5 minutes? What should citizens in the region do? What is it what you want them to understand before we close this segment tonight?
First, I think that we have to begin to read about the criminal nature of our politics and or business world or financial world. I think during the 2008 financial collapse, that is when I started reading about the financial world and our financial world, Wall Street and these big business companies. You would be shocked. But there is a book written by Whitney Webb called One Nation Under Blackmail. Now, that book is some heavy stuff. If you're reading that book, you have to drink your coffee or whatever you drink and have some real mental, power, to read that book, because it's a lot that she unveils, she unpacks in that book. The One Nation Under blackmail, referring to the United States. And when you look at these big corporations and how they are involved in arms trafficking, human trafficking, everything that you can think about that you would never identify these guys with, because you think that they're so clean and they're well clad and they speak so eloquent and beautifully, and they are the graduates of the Harvards and the Princetons and the Yales. Yet still they are involved with some of the most, remember now that Epstein had an office at Harvard University, of all places, right? So we have to make the connections and understand that not because we see wealth and we see our politicians being as symbols of power, we have to be alert, read, not to attack them, but they say knowledge is power. And if we have the power, the knowledge which is power, then we're able to combat what is happening. But if we don't understand, as the Bible says, we should what? Give us wisdom, lest we perish. So we need some wisdom from God, and we have to arm ourselves with knowledge, because without knowledge, then the people are going to perish too. So that is my.
Yeah. So you're saying in essence, we've got to read, and
Yes.
I think and read widely, understand, because and the reason you're saying that is when we look at what happened with us with the pandemic as a region. Yes, we understood what happened in the world, but we're talking to ourselves here in the region and in Africa. A lot of it took us by surprise. It's now that it's over, people are like, hold a minute, we got duped there, after it's over. And while, yes, we're still waiting on, we're taking a 5 minutes, only one guest is here from the other segment. How do we prepare for it in terms of when we look at what happened in the pandemic with the lockdowns and the stop free movement and so on, etc. What are some of the things that you think that they're going to try to do in these SOEs in the different countries?
The greatest thing is, as you're suggesting, and I suggested before, is knowledge. And this is a spiritual warfare, but civil disobedience is the best way to protest and resistance. I give you an example. Civil disobedience. If we had all said, I am not going to be locked down, and everybody came out of their house during the lockdowns, would they have done it? No. But the majority of us, because one, of a lack of knowledge, and fear, as you said in your book, Marcia, fear. So we cannot allow fear to paralyze us. And that's another thing. And why do we fear? Because of lack of knowledge. If we were aware of the enemy and we know what weapons the enemy has in his or her hand, then we would prepare ourselves for the enemy, and we would not just be fear and scared and be fearful, right? So if we can arm ourselves with knowledge and practice civil disobedience, be respectful, but yes, say we are not going to do it. If more of us had said no and had protested and had gone to work and done what we were supposed to have done during the pandemic, but we all succumbed to fear, and that's why we remained at home. So fear is what, Marcia, and you said it many times, fear is what, and a lack of knowledge, that is what is destroying us at the moment.
Wow. And this is I have a friend here, Mr. Nigel Newton, is always talking about civil disobedience,
Yes.
and the importance of it. I would love to hear what some of the those in the comment section what they have to say about civil disobedience, because that we're a very obedient country.
Yes.
Even though it's recorded that the first major rebellion, based on my research, was in Barbados, the Buster Rebellion, even before Morant Bay and all of those big rebellions in Jamaica. It was right here in Barbados.
Civil disobedience is a form of rebellion. We don't have to always go, we can't fight them because they have powerful weapons, drones and everything to kill us, right? But how can they kill all of us? And that's the whole manner. The power of civil disobedience is that if we had like 70% of the world's population, had they not gone with the pandemic, rules and whatever, they couldn't impose it on us. They couldn't, right? In fact, I'd heard from reading that it was a test, because some of the people at the WEF meeting, at the World Economic Forum, they were saying, no, these guys in the West, they're not going to do it. They're not going to be locked down. So it was a test. And when they came and they really, it was a Trinidadian, by the way, who said it. He was working in the White House, right? His
Yes,
name is Philip
we know him.
Alexander. Huh?
Paul Alexander. Yes.
Paul Alexander, right? And he was the one who said it, that it was a test. They were saying, I don't think that these people are going to be locked down. They're going to have civil disobedience. They're going to protest. When they saw that we did not do it, then they say, yes, we have them. Yes. And they just continue to do what they're doing.
Yes. Well, this is rather interesting, and one of the things that we are planning to do is to find a way, and we're going to tell them more about it, Mr. Tucker, where we can, some of them don't remember. My husband don't remember when we used to have our 1 o'clock show on a Wednesday. Anybody remember that with my 30 people? But we want to go back to some of those lives and do, in the middle of the day, probably on a Monday or Thursday, and where we go more in depth into Caribbean and look at Africa and join a lot of these issues all together, because we realize we're fighting the same. It's the same giant. It's the same boogeyman, as they would say.
And Marcia, I'm saying, and I hope that my people, the audience doesn't misunderstand me. We have to watch what is happening in the U.S. The U.S. sets the trends. And after the trends have been set, we follow.
We follow.
Right? Yes. It always happens. If you look at history, it always happens. Anything that is any precedence that is set in the United States is going to come to the Caribbean. So we have to look. Just don't see Trump's America as just Trump there and we're here. It doesn't work like that, because we are a part of that system, even though we're not citizens of the United States.
Yes. Well, Mr. Tucker, thank you so very much for joining us. And we're I'm going to get you back. You got to come back on. And those of you who might have missed what I said earlier, if you want to hear more from Mr. Tucker, he has his channel is called Rumination with Andrew. Excellent material over there. And you know what? That's the thing about it. Some of you might not necessarily agree with everything, but hey, that's how life is. You read a book and you take in what you want and you throw away what you want. But I tell you something, if someone had started, so when we were trying to warn everybody about the pandemic, they called us what do they call
conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theorists. Yes.
Right? So just go at least read. What we're encouraging you to do is to read and do your own research. Important. And we've said that a number of times throughout this.
And study our history. The history is important. If you read the history of slavery, we should not be surprised at what we're seeing. Remember, they were trafficking human beings. People, they trafficked us. Our foreparents were treated as what? As comebacks, as chattels. They're objects. Right? So why don't you think they wouldn't do the same thing again?
Yes. Most definitely.